tapis rouge à son arrivée à Pyongyang. Par terre de faim, Vladimir Poutine en colère, comme on l'a rarement entendu. Il a visé...
Alors, c'est très intéressant, il y a une vidéo très importante, je pense que c'est important de le voir. Très importante. Suivant.
And we are operating in a rapidly changing and challenging environment today, which requires us to be even more focused on these efforts. We must not only respond to the challenges we face today, but also shape our long-term objectives together with our partners. We must suggest and discuss fundamental matters openly and constructively, matters that are important not only for us, but for the global community. Let me emphasize, the world is rapidly changing, and there will be no business as usual in politics, economics, or anywhere else. More and more countries are seeking to reinforce their sovereignty and national cultural identities. We are seeing countries from the global south, including Asia, Africa, and Latin America, coming to the fore. Since Soviet times, we have recognized the importance of these regions, but there is new momentum in this regard. We observe ongoing transformations in Eurasia, where major integration projects are underway. It is based on this new economic reality that we witness the emergence of a multipolar world order. This is an objective process that reflects cultural diversity, despite efforts to standardize. Today, we're making another concrete peace proposal. If Kyiv rejects it once again, it's their decision to continue this bloodshed.
Voilà pourquoi je dis aux gens, avant de s'engager dans une guerre comme militaire, il faut comprendre pourquoi tu vas combattre cette guerre. À qui ça profite? Vous savez, les politiciens, très rarement, ou presque jamais, n'envoient leurs enfants à la guerre. Hein. C'est les enfants d'autrui qu'on envoie à la guerre. On y va.
The situation on the ground will continue shifting, and not in favor of the Kyiv regime, and the conditions for negotiations will change accordingly. I want to emphasize that our proposal goes beyond a mere ceasefire or temporary truce, as desired by the West. Who aims to rearm the Kyiv regime. Our aim is not to freeze this conflict, but to bring it to a definitive end. Once again, I stress that as soon as Kyiv agrees to the terms we propose today, including a complete withdrawal of its troops from the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions, and begins this process in earnest, we are prepared to commence negotiations without delay. These principles are quite straightforward. Ukrainian troops must be completely withdrawn from the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, as well as the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions. I want to emphasize from the entire territory of these regions within their administrative boundaries as they existed at the time they were incorporated into Ukraine. As soon as Kyiv announces its readiness for such a decision and begins the actual withdrawal of troops from these regions, as well as officially notifies about renouncing plans to join NATO, we will immediately, literally in the same minute, issue an order to cease fire and begin negotiations. I repeat, we will do this without delay, and we will simultaneously guarantee the unhindered and safe withdrawal of Ukrainian units. Of course, we would like to hope that such a decision regarding the withdrawal of troops, non-aligned status, and the initiation of dialogue with Russia, on which Ukraine's future existence depends, will be made independently in Kyiv, based on the current realities and genuine national interests of the Ukrainian people, and not under Western directives, although there are certainly significant doubts about this. The recent elections in the European Parliament have demonstrated that European politicians tolerate the humiliation they face from the United States, which has been exploiting Europe. They force them to buy their expensive gas, by the way, which in Europe is 3 to 4 times more expensive than in the USA. Now, the United States wants Europe to increase arms supplies to Ukraine and imposes sanctions against European economic operators arbitrarily. They are now forcing Europe to ramp up arms deliveries to Ukraine and expand artillery shell production. Who will need these shells once the conflict in Ukraine is over? The world is interconnected and interdependent, and we're seeing evidence every day. And one of the tragic examples is Ukrainian crisis, the consequences of which resonate across the entire planet. Ukrainian crisis is not a conflict of 2 states. It's not a conflict of 2 countries, not a conflict of 2 peoples caused by some problems between them. If that were the case, there would be no doubt that Russians and Ukrainians, united by shared history, culture and spiritual values, along with a million familial ties, would have found a way to solve all problems and all the differences in a peaceful manner. But the situation is different. The roots of this conflict are not in bilateral relations between the 2 countries. The events in Ukraine are a direct result of global and European developments at the end of the 20th and the beginning of the 21st century. Aggressive, brazen, and completely reckless policies that the West has been implementing all these years, long before the special military operations started. The Western countries have frozen Russia's assets and current reserves. Now they're scrambling to establish a legal framework to snatch them and to make them their own. But all bureaucracy aside, this will remain pure and simple theft. The issue goes even deeper. By stealing Russian assets, they take another step toward undermining the system they themselves created, which has ensured their prosperity for many decades. It allowed them to consume more than they earned through debt and obligations, attracting money from around the world. Now, however, it is becoming evident to all sovereign funds and strange companies that their assets and reserves are far from secure, both legally and economically. In other words, anyone could be next in line for expropriation by the US and the West. The danger to Europe does not come from Russia. The main threat to Europeans lies in their critical and increasingly total dependence on the United States in military, political, technological, ideological, and information spheres. Europe is being pushed more and more to the sidelines of global economic development, is immersed in the chaos of immigration and other acute problems, and is deprived of international subjectivity and cultural identity. Sometimes it seems that the ruling European politicians and representatives of the Euro bureaucracy are more afraid of falling out of favor with Washington than losing the trust of their own people, their own citizens.
Les Russes, ça rigole pas, hein. Laissez-moi vous dire un truc. Les Russes sont parmi les humains qui sont restés fidèles à leur nature. Ce sont les gens qui rigolent pas. Si vous avez déjà été à Moscou, vous savez. Les Russes, ils rigolent. Vous ne verrez jamais des Russes en train de dire jamais vous verrez ça. Chez les Russes, il n'y en a pas. Ça n'existe pas. Et s'il y avait une guerre mondiale, quelqu'un disait, une 3e guerre mondiale, où on se servait seulement de ses mains pour combattre, pas des fusils, pas des couteaux, rien du tout, seulement les mains. Vous savez qui gagnerait cette guerre? Je vous laisse deviner. Ok. God bless.